All right. Hello, everyone. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. Hopefully, you all can hear me now, and we can kick it off. So, in this live session, we're going to be talking about, obviously the hottest thing out there, which is ChatGPT. Now, we've already looked at how, or you hopefully you've already seen about how ChatGPT is really good at making content. It's very good at making blog posts and things like that. And that's where it came out of as a language learning model. But now we've also been seeing it used in other fields as well, one of which is data analytics. What we'll be going through in this sort of, short session, I think it should take about 30 minutes, is how we can apply ChatGPT uh, to Excel. Um, there is going to be a course on Enterprise DNA out there that will talk about how to actually use ChatGPT in Excel. And what we'll be going through is, as a data analyst, you'll obviously need to use um, Excel a lot in your career. And, some people really like Excel, some people don't. Some people understand the formulas you use in Excel, and some people really can't bother to learn it. But now with ChatGPT, it makes things a lot simpler. So what we'll do throughout this section is we'll start with just using ChatGPT to create Excel formulas. Obviously, in Excel workbook, there's lots of formulas, there's lots of things like that that you'll need to create. And we'll basically show how ChatGPT can help you with that. We'll then go towards how ChatGPT can actually help you create data as well. So not just sample data, which is important, and we'll show how to do that, but also how to take data maybe that you've loaded from one system that's not in the exact format that you want it, and then put it into other systems. We'll talk about how to use ChatGPT to create custom formatted cell types, to explain formulas, which is actually very cool as well, to create pivot tables. And then finally, we'll also talk about how you can bring in data from Excel to ChatGPT to analyze it as well. So we'll be going through those few things. So what I'll do is I'll start sharing my screen here. Hopefully, if I can. Okay, perfect. So hopefully you can all see my screen here. And what I'll do is I'll put ChatGPT on one end here. Okay. And I'm just going to assume that everybody can still see my screen and everybody can still hear me. Gene, let me know if that's not the case. And then I'll also open up an Excel sheet here. Let me just put this on the left-hand side. Perfect. And this on the right hand. Okay, perfect. So, let me just get up a new ChatGPT screen open so we can go through it. All right. As you can see, I've been kind of working on this for the past few days as well, just seeing what it can do, what it can't do, those types of things here. Okay, so let's see if you have an Excel file like this. You have your revenue data by year and by month. And because you're a total newbie to Excel, you don't know how to actually create a formula that will take the sum of all of these cells. Well, now, before you would need to kind of Google that and go through that, now you don't need to. Now it's actually very simple. All you have to do is you have to tell ChatGPT where your data is and what you want to do. So, for example, we can go over here to ChatGPT and we can say, create an Excel formula for me that will sum up the cells. And then we can specify. So we want it to sum up the cells B2 through B13. So we can say over here from B2 through B13. And the nice thing is that ChatGPT just gives you the answer, which is very cool. It also kind of tells you how to use it, where to paste it, things like that. So we can just take that over here, put it here, and boom, you're done. So that's obviously very simple, and you can kind of move that across to get all the sums. Now you can obviously keep going, and we can ask it not only for the sum, but the average as well. So that will average, or that will take the average, and it gives you the formula as well. And obviously, hopefully, since you're all hopefully are data analysts or intending to be data analysts, you know how Excel works. So this would be no surprise to you. But then we can take these concepts and put them even further. So one thing that as a newbie Excel user that I kind of struggled with is how to do index matches correctly. So we have this other tab over here that's very simple. Basically, you have the year, you have the month, and you need to plug in the revenue number that basically corresponds from this table. So someone should be able to put in any year and any month, and you should be able to kind of get that number here. So we can actually ask ChatGPT to do that as well. Again, the main thing here is you need to give it context, where you need to be able to actually tell it where the data is, how the data works, and so on and so forth. So we can say something like, here is the following data in an Excel file from cells A1 through, so we're going to be obviously highlighting this, cells A1 through D13. Okay, perfect. Um, we then need to also specify, and we can also specify use the following data in Excel files, and that is in sheet one. Okay, perfect. And we also are going to say in another sheet, I have a year in cell B4 and a month in cell C4. Okay. We also probably need to specify over here for our range what the first column and the first row is, right? So the first, well, really what we say here is the columns of the data are the years. The rows of the data are the months. And we'll also specify that this is revenue data. Year and again, the reason why I'm doing this is because you want to be as specific as possible for these prompts to work. And I'm doing this live, so this might not even work, but it's okay. We'll kind of keep refining it. And sometimes it does take one or two iterations to get the formula that you want. Okay, so another thing I have the year in cell B4 and the month in cell C4. Perfect. So that's the contact. Now we want to say create an Excel formula that will uh, give me the revenue in cell D4 given, or here we can say for a specific year in cell B4 and month in cell C4. Okay. And we can also give it some guidance. We'll say use index match because we know for something like this, an index match can be used. Obviously, we can also say to use VLOOKUP or something like that too. Okay, perfect. Now let's just copy and paste it and see how it works. So this is the thing that I had before, so I'll just delete it, and then I'll put this guy in here instead. And there we go. It works. So the nice thing about this too is that it even shows you how the formula works in case you're interested to learn how the formula works. And that's particularly helpful because if this is your first time using the formula, or you don't just want to use something that, you know, a LLM that you've never really used before, you can't really fully trust it, but this makes it auditable at least. So you can kind of see the thought process and how it works, which is nice. Over here too, you can see that this is the right answer because 2021 January is 88485, which is what this is. So we can keep going from there. But those are, really simple use cases of formulas. But you can see that it works for simple formulas. It works for more advanced formulas like index matches. And as we'll see later, it can also work for very, very, very complex formulas, especially formulas that you don't know um, what the actual formula should be, right? Like this is logic here, but for example, you can also do something where you can put in a financial statement in here and tell ChatGPT, this is a financial statement. These are what the numbers are, or this is where the cells are. Create a formula for me in Excel that will calculate EBITDA or profit or something like that. Um, the example that we go through in the course is we actually do a mortgage calculation. So, for example, I don't know how to calculate a mortgage payment, and Excel inherently itself does not know how to calculate a mortgage payment as well. But ChatGPT knows how to calculate a mortgage payment and knows how to translate that into an Excel formula, which is really the unlock here. So that's really cool because you can kind of use it in your analytics, right? When you're doing it in Excel. If you don't know how to do something in Excel, you can kind of ask ChatGPT to go ahead and do it for you, which is cool. Okay, let's keep going. Now, the next thing here, um, and what I'll do is I'll get rid of all of this because this was the answer before. But let's say if we get customer data from a process that looks like this, we have three columns: customer name, date joined, email. Now, what you need to do, because you wanted to include this in your own analysis that's in a different format, is your target state should look like first name, last name, date joined, the Sunday before they actually joined, and then your email domain. Now, this part is kind of tough to do in Excel because, for example, in order to split the customer name into first name and last name, you can do it in several ways, but you can use formulas. You can also do something that you could basically take this and then know what it's called, extra columns and put space as a delimiter to do it as well. Many different ways. But as you can see, ChatGPT has its own way of doing it, which is a bit faster. Date joined. This is very annoying, especially if you download any data from bank websites for whatever reason. Um, it doesn't use month, day, year, which Excel does not recognize as like a good date. So you need to kind of reconstruct it so it's year, month, day. So that gets a bit annoying. Um, and then we'll go through another calculation. And then finally, maybe you want to extract the email domain. And that's a bit difficult again because the email domain here, where it is between the at sign and the dot sign, you don't fully know how many spaces, for example, Gmail is after, or how many spaces Outlook is after. And all of these things are solvable after doing a bunch of Googling and after doing a bunch of your own testing. But you could simply just ask ChatGPT to do it and get the answer for you, which which is nice. So, anyways, let's put a new chat for that. And we'll start by saying, I have customer data in cells A1, perfect, A1 through C11. And we can also kind of show what it looks like as well. Okay. Create a formula. Well, you could probably say create an Excel formula for to give it context since this is a new cell. Like to say in Excel. What's in Excel? Perfect. We can say over here, create an Excel formula that will extract the first name from the customer name column. Perfect. So it gave me the formula. It gave me a bunch of other things as well. So we can just go over here, paste it, and boom, done. Now here again, you can do it yourself. You can kind of do equals left and then kind of, I always get a bit confused as to what bind does, so it gets a bit confusing, but this is really helpful. And you can even do the same thing. So create an Excel formula that'll extract the last name for you. Okay, so let me copy that, paste it in here, and perfect. Boom. Okay, now let's keep going over here. We sort of mentioned in here that in our context that the date joined is well, it's clearly in day, month, sorry, month, sorry, MMDD, YYYY, and we want to shift it. So we can say over here, the date joined column is in the format MMDD, YYYY, create a formula that will shift it to YYYY, MMDD format. So let's see if that works. Amazing. So again, like that's so cool. I mean, this would probably taken me like, you know, 7 minutes to kind of go through and Google and make the formula, but I just asked ChatGPT and got the answer in like less than 30 seconds, basically, right? When it already had the context. So this is where you can kind of find a lot of efficiencies, especially if you work a lot in Excel. Just always have a ChatGPT window open, so you can ask it questions like this. Now we can even go further and say over here we want to create a formula that takes this and basically gets the Sunday before they join or the Sunday date before they joined. So we can go over here and say create an Excel formula that takes in a date found in cell, in our case it's in G2, and returns the, how do I say this? The closest Sunday before that date. Perfect. Okay, let's do this over here. I'll put it over here. Now I do want to like have, you know, I want to say that the ChatGPT doesn't always give you the right answer. You do still at this point need to kind of do some auditing and some testing with the formulas you get. So I really hope that at one point this section kind of it gives me the wrong answer. So we can go through how you actually iterate and get the right answer. But let me just quickly check if February 12th, 2005 is actually a Sunday. I can probably ask ChatGPT that too, but it would not make sense. We'd be bad auditing practices to, ask the person who kind of gave you the thing you want to audit if that's right or not. Um, okay, yeah, it's not. So February 12th is actually a Saturday. So it's actually wrong. So it's a good thing that we checked. So something you can do over here is that did not give me the right answer. That gave me the Saturday, not the. I'm just gonna double check if I can tell that it's wrong. 15th, yeah, it could be the 13th. Okay, so give me the Saturday, not the Sunday. Okay, let's see what this gives here. Ah, it just can't figure it out, huh? Just be like, we can say just say add 1 day. So we can just do a +1 here because it kind of says to add 1 day, you just do a +1. And there we go. Now it gave me the sunrise. So sometimes we do have to do a bit of iteration here, um, especially because, uh, it's not always going to give you the right answer. If you think about how these LLMs are built, they're built using, for example, Stack Overflow responses and things like that, and those aren't always right. Or maybe it's something in my prompt that kind of led it the wrong way. So when I do this again, it actually might give me the right answer. So you always do need to double check. It needs to be auditable. It needs to be tested. So that's why I would recommend kind of, making sure you actually do that. Okay. Also, I'm actually using 3.5 to save a little bit of money. I'm sure, or perhaps in 4, we wouldn't get that error. But again, even if you do, it just takes some iteration. Okay, perfect. Email. So over here, we can say create a formula that will track the domain from the email column. Now here, this is the reason why I'm doing this as well, because I want to do different use cases. This is a great opportunity to give it an example because domain, not that specific. It can either mean example, in this case, example.com or gmail.com or outlook.com. It can mean adding in the at sign or not adding in the at sign. It can mean just taking out the Outlook word or the Yahoo word or the Hotmail word. So here it's good to give an example, right? So we can say, for example, if the email is, you can see over here, Michael Johnson at outlook.com, then the formula should return. In this case, I want outlook.com. Boom. So let me go over here, copy it in, and it returns what I want. So now I basically created a way to kind of get data from my old system, which unfortunately finds the customer names together. Unfortunately, gives me the dates and month, day, year. Unfortunately, it doesn't split out the domain, which is for my system what I want. It now does that all for you, and then obviously in Excel you can kind of just propagate that forward as well, uh, which is which is nice. Cool. Okay, well, if there's no questions, I'll continue. But if there's a question, please feel free to chat or chime in. I'm happy to answer any questions. But if not, I will keep going and show more use cases and more things that Excel can do. And we're getting to kind of the fun stuff now as well. Okay, perfect. All right, so over here, one thing you do a lot in data analysis or analytics is you need to create logic that will take a certain piece of data and do something with it. Either summarizes it, puts it through a data engineering workflow, loads it somewhere else, gets it to somewhere else, visualizes it, and so on and so forth. And for that, sometimes you don't even have the underlying data. All you have is a schema of what the data will look like. That gets very annoying because then what you have to do, as everybody knows who's in this kind of field, is you need to create sample data, and humans are actually not that creative when creating that sample data. And the nice thing that ChatGPT allows you to do is you can actually tell it to give you a whole host of sample data based on a schema, and also data that will test edge cases, data that will test null, for example, or data that will test having special characters in places where you might not have special characters if you're just making the sample data yourself, right? And so on and so forth. So what we'll do over here is, oh, yeah, I'm not sure why I cannot go over there. Okay, perfect. All right. So here's the data set that I have: first name, last name, email, phone, company name, age, and I want to create, 9 or 10 additional rows of the sample data. So I can say over here, um, create sample data for me, um, with the following schema. Here's a sample data entry, and now we can say over here, create 10 more. Now we'll actually go through and create those entries. And the interesting thing about this is that it recognizes, without me even telling it, you know, that this should be the first name, last name, there should be an email, it should be different emails, the phone number should follow this. Ace Construction and Blue Sky Airlines, again, just by knowing company name and Cookies for You Limited, it does that, and then age. But here's where it gets really, really cool. So um, let's say if our sample data needs to make sure that it can handle, company names that are based in that are based in Canada. So we can say over here, ensure that the company names are actual Canadian companies. So maybe we could say found on the TSX, which is like the Toronto Stock Exchange, which is the stock exchange that we have in Canada. Uh, it actually doesn't know that. Um, okay. So instead, what we can do is we can just say, ensure that the company names or create 10 more rows of sample data, but the company names should be actual companies found in the S&P 500. Cool. Now we have, Adobe, Amazon, Apple, Coca-Cola, Facebook, Alphabet, Microsoft, and so on and so forth, which is really cool. And now again, for your use cases, you want to make sure that you cover, a lot of edge cases, because that's the whole point of creating sample data, is to make sure that your logic works on a whole host of different data. Well, you can you can continue to do that. So you can say, create 10 more rows, um, but have some of the first and last names include characters with accents. And I actually don't know if it can do accents with my, but let's see. Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. So now, you want to make sure that, for example, this works in, if you're in Canada, this works in Montreal, because there's a lot of names with accents on them. So you want to make sure that it's inputted properly, or the workflow that you're using kind of takes that into account. And you can do them. And the cool thing about this is that the sample data kind of makes sense, right? Because, like, for example, Camila Garcia, her email is Camila Garcia, and so on and so forth. And if we don't like these emails, if these emails look too, too accurate, we can even say, make the email more realistic. Actually, don't have realistic word. Yeah, there we go. Material remember is 1990 Isabel. Yeah, perfect. 1975, 83. There's usually numbers on them now. So you can kind of keep doing that and iterating through that to get to the exact samples, sorry, to get to the exact sample data set that you want. And then after you do that, you can say, perfect, give me 100 rows, perfect. Give me 100 rows. And it'll do all of that. Now I'm going to stop it from generating, but you can keep doing 100, you can do 1,000, you can do 10,000, you can do 100,000. You just have to tell it to keep going, and I'll get that data for you. And then finally, when you're done, well, first of all, I'll just say, give me 10 rows because I don't want to, do this on 100 rows because that'll be crazy. I can say, perfect, uh, put this into a table. Okay, awesome. And go over here, copy that. Did I copy the header? That's okay. Let me just paste it now. I'm going to get rid of the headers. And there we go. We have our sample data that we want. Oh, we probably should have also adjusted the phone number as well because this obviously doesn't look real. But oh well, that is fine. And there we go. Now there are a lot of sample data generators online, but I guarantee nothing can do this. A lot of sample data generators are like, okay, add a field. What do you want the field to represent? First name, last name, core model, whatever, whatever. But then you can't go through this iteration process, which again is what makes this so powerful and actually like a lot of fun to use too. Cool. All right, let's keep going. I think we have time for maybe two more use cases. All right. So here, let me actually hide this column. Let me put the values out. Okay. So something else that I particularly use ChatGPT for is formatting. So this is particularly helpful if you want to be able to format numbers very quickly in Excel. Now, obviously, you have these preset formatters here. So you can make this an accounting. You can put a dollar sign symbol on it. You can do a bunch of different things. But let's say if you wanted to convert this into millions. Now, you could use a formula. You could divide the number by a million and then add the letter M to it. But you want to keep it in the same cell, right? So what you'd have to do now is you'd have to go over here and go to custom and then figure out what this pack means, Google it, and then kind of using this, get to the actual number formatting that you want. This is especially useful if you want to get to a number formatting where you can, for example, make the cells red if they're negative, right? Or do other things like that to it. So then, why do we have to do this? Or we really don't have to do this. Instead, ChatGPT can do it for us. Okay. So we can say over here, let's put a new chat in an Excel file. Um, what's it called exactly? Custom type. Yeah. Create a custom formatted cell type that will take a number like this number here and turn it into, in this case, I want it to be 499 million. Right, 400 and yeah, 99 million. Perfect. It kind of walks me through the steps as well. So it says to click this, then go to custom. And then all I need to do is I just need to copy and paste this guy in here. And I'm not sure why there's two of them. That's funny. We can probably get ChatGPT to fix that, but then I can just, oh, whoops, God, I've done that. I need to basically apply this all the way here to the format. Perfect. Okay. We can say over here that there is an extra dash at the beginning. Please remove it. Okay, perfect. So now give me another one. So I'm just going to go in here. Perfect. This looks more right. Okay. And let's keep going. This looks kind of boring, right? So we can say instead, perfect. Um, Also, if the number is below 0, it should be red. All right, let's see how that guy looks. So let me go over here to number, custom, and look at that. That's pretty funny. It actually inferred that I would want it to be green if it's positive, even though I didn't explicitly say that. Again, it's likely because the knowledge base that it's using the model from recognized that someone wanted to make it red and also wanted to make it green, and that's where it kind of pulled that knowledge from. But that's pretty funny. And then finally we can say something like there should be a space between the number and the letter M, and we can say something like there should be no decimal places. Again, the nice thing, honestly, one of the reasons why I think ChatGPT has taken off is because it has memory, right? Not a lot of tools like this have memory, but it has memory because it knows that you want to keep the color, that you want to make it in millions from the previous chats and things like that. So because it has that memory, it's very powerful. So we can go over here to number, change this guy, and now that looks a lot better than what we had before. And I like this to me was so annoying doing it back in the day without ChatGPT that I'd have to Google exactly what the different combinations are and how it worked and what color 10 is and what color 3 is and so on and so forth. Now I don't need to do that. It just I just ask ChatGPT to. So obviously there you can clearly see a trend too. Perfect. Okay. Now let's go through one more use case of uh, using ChatGPT in data analytics. I know this was analytics, but particularly we're just going through Excel, but there's just so much more in data analytics or SQL. There's just you have to put data into ChatGPT and analyze it. We'll probably go through that in later sessions. But over here, one of the cool things about ChatGPT is if you inherit an Excel file where the formulas are really, really hard to understand, ChatGPT can help you understand it and actually help you understand it in a really nice way. So for example, I inherit this file that gives me the invoice ID, the invoice date, and the amount. And then there's a calculation for due date. Now, this due date calculation is not that crazy, to be honest. It's actually fairly simple. But uh, the nice thing about this is that not only do you need to kind of decipher exactly what's going on, instead, I can just take this, copy it, and say, please explain what is going on in this formula whoops, in simple terms. Perfect. So it says here the formula checks the value of C2 and compares it to a series of numbers. If C2 is less than or equal to 0, value returns an empty cell. If it's C2 is between 0 and 100, the formula returns the value of B2 and so on and so forth. Now, this is still a bit confusing, um, but we can actually give it some context. So we know in the formula it uses C2 and B2. So we can say here the cell C2 is is the invoice date. The cell B2, sorry, the cell C2 is the invoice amount, not date. Cell B2 is the invoice dates. The cell where the formula is being used is C2, which is the invoice is the invoice due date. Now it makes things a lot easier to read. Now it clearly says that if the invoice amount is between 0 and 100, the due date will be the same as the invoice date, indicating that the payment is due immediately. If the invoice amount is between 100 and 600, the due date will be 1 month after the invoice date, indicating the payment is due within 30 days, and so on and so forth. Now you clearly see that the invoice due date is dependent on the amount, and if it's between 100 and 600, it's due in 30 days. If it's 600 and 1,000, then it's due in 60 days. If it's more than 1,000, it's due in 90 days. And this makes it very easy. But we can even say make it simpler and shorter, and even gives you a simpler and shorter answer for you, which is nice. So we can say put the logic into an easy to read table. Look at that. Boom. And again, this is for like it's not that complex of a formula to be honest, but imagine what it could do for a really, really, really tough formula for you to digest. It's nice because now you get a simple table like this. You can be like, oh, okay, that's how it works. 0 to 100, same as invoice date, 100 600, 1 month afterwards. And again, we didn't even have to make this table. If your manager tells you, hey, you need this formula work, you can just put in ChatGPT and then just send them this as an email back to them, and you barely did any work to kind of get that done. So that's another cool use case of using ChatGPT in Excel is the ability for it to explain complex formulas to you. Which is nice. Okay, I think that's everything we wanted to cover. Does anybody have any questions or anything like that before we end the session? All right. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for attending. And again, there will be a course on how to use ChatGPT in Excel, and there'll be two. Here we barely scratched the surface. The second ChatGPT Excel course will actually go through how to use ChatGPT to create macros and how to actually get ChatGPT inside Excel through an API, which is very cool because then you don't even need to open up this ChatGPT window anymore. You can do everything you want inside Excel, and you can create cool Excel applications that way as well. Cool. Well, thank you for listening. Henry from Enterprise DNA, and we'll see you on the next one.